let's continue with our 8th section of a very short book. I apologize. Okay. In my dream, I was sitting in Mrs. Berryhill's office. Only her office wasn't inside the school, it was outside, in the middle of the forest, which I realize sounds totally stupid, but in dreams, stuff like that seems perfectly normal. Anyway, at first, Mrs. Berryhill was nowhere in sight, but then I looked into the woods and saw her darting in and out from behind the trees, the way cartoon characters do sometimes when they're trying to find someone. "Hey, Miss Berryhill, who are you looking for?" I shouted out, only she was too far away to hear me. That's when I decided to help her in her search, and I stood up and on her chair and hollered out, "Ollie, Ollie, Oxenfree!" which is sort of this international kids language for come out wherever you are. And so I wasn't surprised when I heard a bunch of feet running through the forest in my direction. Only the weird thing was the feet didn't belong to a kid. They belonged to Walkit, our old dog. She trotted out of the trees, happy as anything, wearing her old red cowboy hat, plus these 4 little red cowboy boots on her feet, which were like the cutest things you've ever seen. Then right behind her came Mick. He was carrying a box of cereal and wearing this amazing t-shirt that flashed his name on and off in hot pink neon letters. So like you couldn't forget it even if you tried. M-I-C-K, M-I-C-K, exclamation point, M-I-C-K, exclamation point. I'm talking about the coolest t-shirt you can imagine, and since he was holding so tight to the cereal box, I figured that's where it must have come from. So naturally I tried to grab it to see if there was one in there for me too. Only, what do you know? Mick refused to hand it over. The next thing I knew, we were wrestling on top of Miss Berryhill's desk, and Mick had me in a sleeper hold, which he thought was pretty funny, I guess, because he was grinning from ear to ear. And Walkett must have thought so too, because all of a sudden I heard this weird snorting sound. And when I looked on the ground, Walkett was laughing so hard she was rolling on her back with her little boots up in the air. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. So funny I woke myself laughing, which I'd never ever heard of anyone doing before. And it must have been loud because right away I heard Mick's door open. I was sure it was Nana from Florida coming to yell at me for ditching school. But it wasn't her at all. It was my mother, just standing there staring at me with with a horrible look in her face. And all I could think about was how awful it must be for her to open the door and see me in Mick's bed like that. I started to ramble. I had a dream about him. My mother's eyes closed. "No, wait, Mom. You don't understand. It was a good dream. It was a funny dream. Walkett was in it. And so was Mrs. Berryhill. I think that's because when I saw her today, she kept calling Mick my loss. But see, hold on, sorry. But see, he's never going to be lost, Mom. I swear to God he's not, because Zoe and I sort of figured out that he's everywhere now. And if you're everywhere, then you can never be lost." Mom's face softened a little. "In my dream, we were fighting and wrestling around and stuff. But it's okay to remember that we used to fight, don't you think? I mean, Mick would probably hate it if we tried to turn him into some perfect little angel or something. Because after all, he did put in a lot of effort into annoying us sometimes, you know." I stopped for a second. Like, remember how mad we'd all get when he'd do that disgusting fake sneeze on the last piece of pie so nobody else would have it? And remember how irritating he was on vacation last summer? You even made him sit in the car when we went to McDonald's that one time, remember? You said he was demented. My mother looked away. "Stop it, Phoebe. You know perfectly well I was kidding when I said that." I tried not to grin. You were not, Mother. You were furious at him. And you know why? Too? She waited a minute before she spoke again. She waited a minute before she spoke again. I wasn't furious. I was just irritated. I mean, for heaven's sakes, who would it be? He wouldn't stop talking like Elmer Fudd. He talked like Elmer Fudd for 3 solid days in a row. I covered my smile with my hand. You brought him back an Egg McMuffin, remember? And you said if he talked like Elmer Fudd one more time, you weren't going to take him to Disneyland. I bit my lip. Remember when he called you then? What he called you then? By this time, I could tell that my mother was fighting to keep a straight face. She sucked in her cheeks. He called me a wascally wabbit, she managed. But as soon as she did it, she started to laugh. We both did. She came into the room then. It must have been unbelievably hard for her to do that. But she came in and sat down on the edge of the bed. I made a place for her next to me on Mick's pillow. But for the longest time, Mom just sat there, stroking her fingers lightly over the bedspread. Then, at last, she lay down beside me and gently brushed the hair from my eyes. Tell me some more about your dream, she whispered. About your dream, she whispered. I told her that dogs can laugh in heaven. That night, Nana from Florida made spaghetti for dinner. When I heard her carrying the plates in to set the table, I rushed in there as fast as I could. We don't eat in the dining room anymore, Nana. We eat on trays in front of the TV, remember? She waved me away. Can't eat spaghetti off a tray. Slop it all the way down the front of you. Yeah, I know, Nana, but still, I don't think we should. My grandmother's arms flew into the air. Shoo! Skedaddle! Scat, she said. Nana from Florida has cats. It explains a lot. An hour later, she called us to dinner by banging on the spaghetti pot with a metal spoon. Only when we got there, all the placemats were at the wrong spots. Like my father's placemat was at Mick's old spot, and my mother's iced tea glass was where Pop had always sat. Meanwhile, my milk was right across from her, where Mom used to sit, and Nana from Florida was next to me. Mom was already shaking her head. No, when my grandmother came through the door with heavy platter of spaghetti in her hands, hollering, hot, hot, hot. She hurried to set it down. That's when she noticed us standing there staring at the placemats. Oh, poop, she said. I guess crazy old Nana got everyone all cattywampus, didn't I? Then, as usual, her patience was gone, and her hands were waving all around in the air again with the same metal spoon. Well, it won't kill you, will it? Sit down before that stuff gets cold. I was halfway through my spaghetti before I realized what an amazing thing my grandmother had done. Accidentally on purpose, she had gotten us back to the table, eating as a family again, and no one was staring at Mick's empty chair. Nana from Florida. Who would have thought it? We'll continue on our next video.